Hi everyone, it's Keith from the Bucket List Company, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to pack your bag ready for a Marangu Trek up Kilimanjaro. Now, if you're coming along with the Bucket List Company, you will have received one of our kit lists. If you haven't, I'll attach the kit list to the bottom of this video so you can download a copy as well and see what we're talking about. So, on the Marangu route, we do the 6-day route. So that's 6 days worth of trekking. It's a 10 or 11 day trip in total, so you'll have a few days either side at the hotel where you can leave all of your stuff that you need there, because you'll be coming back to the same hotel at the end. And generally, whichever company you're traveling with, that will be the same, so you haven't got to think about everything. Now, when we're on the Marangu route, we've got about a 12 kilo allowance of what the porters are allowed to carry in your duffel bag. So you will have 2 bags. You will have your duffel bag, which the porters are going to carry, and then you'll have your day sack, which you are going to carry with you. So your equipment needs to be distributed between the two. So I'm going to talk through now what goes into my bag for a 6-day trek up Kilimanjaro on the Marangu route. So here I have my day pack. Now we say that you need anything between a 25 to a 40 litre day pack for the trek. 40 litres is quite big, 25 litres can be a little bit too small. So I go for kind of a 40 litre bag, which I don't need to overfill, but I've got plenty of space in it, and then I don't need to struggle finding things in it. So I've got my trekking poles clipped in on the side ready, and this one is then ready to go. I will also carry with me a rucksack liner, which will go inside my day pack, and I'll put everything in there to keep it dry. The bag itself does have one of the covers on the bottom, but I tend to find that when you put that over the top, water still gets in down the back of the bag, and you still then, potentially your stuff will get wet. So by sealing everything in a dry bag inside the rucksack, just means that everything's going to stay super dry. Okay, so we're going to start off on the trek. Let's think about sleeping to start with. When we're on the Marangu route, you are staying in huts every night, so you do not need to take a roll mat with you. All you're going to need is a sleeping bag. I would say a 3-season sleeping bag is plenty for the Marangu route. Because you're in huts, it's slightly warmer than being in a tent, so you don't need to have that thicker sleeping bag. So that's going to go in my duffel bag. I also take my inflatable travel pillow with me. Now, you do get pillows on the Marangu route, on the mattresses, but I always prefer to have mine with me, so we'll put that one in as well. Coming on to footwear, you're going to need to have a pair of boots with ankle support. Now, some people will have a more mountainous boot that they'll use potentially just for the last part of the trek on the way up to the summit, and they'll trek the rest of it in approach shoes. I personally use these Sportiva. They're a mid boot, so they haven't got such a high ankle support. The ankle's still supported quite nicely. These feel like you're wearing approach shoes as opposed to wearing a pair of boots. So I personally prefer these. They're Gore-Tex, so when you're on the lower slopes of Kilimanjaro through the rainforest where it gets a bit wet and muddy, your feet will still stay dry. But these will be what I do the climb in and do it all. So I'll keep these out because I'm not going to put these in because I'm going to be wearing these from the start. I will take a pair of approach shoes with me that I'll just use for the evenings wandering around camp, so I can get my feet out of the boots and go from there. So I will put my approach shoes in. And for lower down, I will also put a pair of flip-flops in as well, just because it is still quite warm further down the mountain. So these are quite comfortable to put on when you get into camp. Also walk into the toilet blocks. There are showers on the Marangu route, so having a pair of flip-flops are quite handy as well. Or Crocs if you're that way inclined. I'm just not that way inclined. I'd also pack a pair of gaiters, especially for the scree coming back down the mountain after you've summited. Now, the scree is quite small, it does get into your boots, so by putting a pair of gaiters on for summit night just stops those little stones as you're coming back down the mountain getting in your boots and causing you an issue. So grab yourself a pair of gaiters as well. Moving on, waterproofs. Now, you need a waterproof jacket and you need a waterproof pair of trousers. Generally, you probably wouldn't wear these for further down when you're in the rainforest. It can get a bit wet. I would potentially buy a plastic poncho when you're in either Arusha or Moshi, just because it's very muggy, very warm. You don't really want to be putting a Gore-Tex jacket on because you're just going to sweat. So these are only going to really be used further up the mountain, and especially on summit night when you're trying to block that wind out. Thing to do is make sure your waterproof jacket will go over the top of your insulating layers as well, because you're going to want to use it as part of your layering system. So make sure that both your waterproof trousers and your waterproof jacket go over the top of all of your different layers. So I'm going to carry these in my day pack just in case I need them anyway, so they're not going to go into my duffel bag. Moving on to clothing then, you're going to want a really good layering system. So the thing with Kilimanjaro is you can be in 30 degree heat at the start of the process at the bottom of the mountain, and I've had it up to -17 with a wind chill factor going up towards the summit. So with a 47 degree difference, you're going to need to have plenty of layers to make sure you can stay at the right temperature that you need to be at. So I'm going to start off with just a basic wicking top that I'm going to start walking in, and a pair of lightweight trekking trousers that will zip off into shorts. So I've got the best of both worlds to start with. So if I want to start in shorts, I can do. If it's still a bit chilly, I can keep the trousers on. So this is what I'm going to start off trekking in. Again, I don't need to put these in the bag because I'm going to wear those on day one. Then moving on to clothes, I like to use packing cubes for my clothes, so I can easily find things when I'm going. So in this one, I mean, as we're only trekking for 6 days, I've got 12 kilos. I should be able to have a clean pair of clothes for each, or at least a clean t-shirt, socks and pants for each day. I'll have a couple of pairs of shorts with me. I'll have a couple of pairs of trousers, one which will be a thin pair of trekking trousers, and the other pair will be a thick pair of trekking trousers that I will use for the summit night itself. So in here, I've got a clean base layer, wicking top for every day, a couple of pairs of trousers, a couple of pairs of shorts as well. So they're going to go into the duffel bag. Then in this one, I've got my socks and pants. Again, I've got a clean pair for every day. Again, I've got enough weight to be able to have a clean pair within the 12 kilos. Now, with regards to the socks, again, I don't want to just go and buy 6 pairs of trekking socks, because you don't want to be wearing thick trekking socks at 30 degrees, and you certainly don't want to be wearing thin trekking socks at -15. So have various different thicknesses of trekking socks to make sure you can keep your feet warm enough when you're on the trail. In this one, I've got my thermals. I've got a pair of thermal bottoms and I've got a thermal top. Again, these will be used for summit night, and these are what I'm going to need to take with me. Again, you're not always going to need to wear them, but they're a handy thing to have. Then I've got my layering system in this one. So I've got various different fleece tops. So I've got 2 in here. I've got one which is really like hugs to the skin, and I've got a Patagonia fleece in here as well that I can put up and zip up and undo if I need to add to that layering system. So they're going to go into the bag as well. I then come on to this one. In here, I've got my thick hat, I've got my thin gloves, and then here I've got my thermal mitts as well for my thick pair of gloves. On summit night, your hands are going to get cold. Obviously, when you take your gloves off to do anything, you're always going to want to make sure you've got a thin pair of gloves on underneath that you can still undo your bag, undo your water bottle, etc. So you're going to need 2 pair of gloves. I've also got a couple of buffs as well. These are super handy again on summit night for bringing up over your nose to keep the wind off. Kilimanjaro also gets very dusty, so it's just a handy thing to have. The other good thing with the buff is if it is really warm, you can wet the buff, put it around your neck, and it'll help cool you down as well. I've then got a peaked hat, keeping the sun off my head, off my back and my neck as well. The buff can also do that by keeping the sun off the back of your neck, but obviously the higher you go, the more powerful the sun's going to be, so the more important to keep yourself protected. The worst thing, you don't want to get sunburn on the back of your neck, because that wouldn't be very helpful at all. Thinking of the sun, we're also going to need a good pair of sunglasses. Obviously the sun gets much stronger the higher you go up. You want to get a pair that will wrap around to make sure it's not letting light in from the sides. So almost a pair of mountaineering cycling glasses that actually wrap around are the best things to get yourself. Insulated jacket. I don't take a very thick one on Kilimanjaro. This is a synthetic jacket rather than a down jacket. This gives me enough warmth for my body. I'm quite warm-blooded. If you do feel the cold, then you might want to get a slightly thicker one. But for me, this is fine with the layering system that I use. I will keep this one in my day pack because when you stop sometimes, when you're really warm, when you actually stop, if there is a bit of a breeze, you are going to feel the cold. So it's just handy to be able to get it out of your bag and put it on during any quick, drink stops, lunch break stops, etc. So I'll always keep this one in my down bag, in my day pack as well. Wash bag, obviously we can keep this to a minimum. Like I said, there are showers, cold showers, I will say, on the Marangu route. So you do have the opportunity to go and have a shower if you want to. Not many people do because in the evenings it does get quite cold when you're at the camps. But you need toothbrush, toothpaste, your normal wash things. But again, this is something that you can either go overboard on, or you can save quite a bit of weight depending on what you're taking with you. Head torch, super important for Kilimanjaro. You're going to do the trek to the summit at night. So you're going to need to have plenty of battery life in your head torch. So either you need a way of charging your head torch to make sure you've got a full battery ready for summit night, or you're going to need to have a spare battery with you so you can switch them out. So you've got one. You're going to be walking from about 11 o'clock midnight through till the sun comes up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. So you're going to need to make sure that your head torch will last through that time. So I will always take a battery pack. There's no way to power your phones, your cameras, things like that whilst you're on Kilimanjaro. So everything needs to be done through a battery pack. And again, this one will also charge my head torch as well if I need to. So this is quite a powerful battery pack. This one's nearly 27,000 milliamps. So I'll get about 4 or 5 charges on my phone off this one. Some of the smaller ones, you'll only get a couple of charges off. So just have a think about the size of the battery pack you're going to need and how many devices, what you're going to need to charge. A lot of people now want to record their trek on their smartwatch, so it might be that if you're recording your trek, you're going to need to charge your smartwatch every night as well. So just have a quick think about that. Final things, trek towel. If you are thinking about having a shower, you are going to need to dry yourself, so a lightweight pack towel that will dry really quickly is super important, and that can just go in the bag as well. I always take an extra dry bag or a small duffel with me that I can put my dirty washing in. You can imagine what 5-6 days on the mountain, what you're going to smell like, and what the clothes you're wearing during the day is going to smell like. Everything also gets really dusty on a Kilimanjaro trek, especially on summit night going up and coming back down. So you want some way of keeping your clean stuff clean in your bag, and by separating your dirty out to your clean, well, you'll thank me for that one in the end. So something to put your dirty washing in. First aid kit. Obviously, your leader will carry the big first aid kit with them, but you are going to need to have your own personal things that you need to carry. Any medication you need, blister plasters, dehydration sachets, Imodium, paracetamol, ibuprofen, anything that you're going to need is super important you carry it with you. This is going to need to go into your day pack because you're going to need to have access at this. There's no point if you feel a hot spot for a blister coming and your first aid kit is in your duffel bag that you're not going to be reunited with until that evening. So anything you're going to need like that, make sure you're carrying it within your day pack. And then finally we come on to hydration. You'll be fed really well on Kilimanjaro Trek. You'll have 3 meals a day that the cooks will cook for you. They'll also do your water for you, and then they'll either filter the water or they will boil the water for you when you're on the mountain. You have various options of what you're going to take with you. You're going to need to have about 2 litres worth of capacity, because basically it needs to get you through from the morning till the lunchtime, and then the lunchtime till the evening before you get back into camp and refill again. So a combination of 2 litres is really good. I like the water to go bottles because they have the filter system in them. You can, even though the water has been filtered, has been boiled, for me, that extra peace of mind of knowing that it's gone through my filter and making sure it's been done properly, I kind of quite like that fact. I personally like taking a bottle with me rather than more of the hydration pack. I see so many people sipping on this all day, coming into camp in the evening and then thinking about they've got a headache and they don't understand why. They think they've got altitude sickness, and when they pull that out of their bag, it's still half full because you cannot see what you're drinking when that's in your bag. So for me, I like to be able to just put that in the side pocket of my day pack, pull it out as I'm going, have a drink, I can see how much I've drank, and then go from there. The other thing with Kilimanjaro is don't just have a hydration pack, because during the summit night, these tubes will freeze if they're out of your bag. So when you get to the summit, you're going to have a solid tube that's not going to defrost again until you're halfway back down the mountain. So you're always going to need to, if you are going to use one of these, you are going to need to take something supplementary as well that you can fill up and keep in your bag and use for summit night. So for me, I like the water to go bottles. You can also use the Nalgene bottles as well. One key thing is, because you're putting your bottles out for the porters to go and fill up for you, make sure you have an identifying bottle in some way. So I always like to wrap a bit of duct tape around my bottles just so I know they're mine, because when you put them out and there's 15 people in your group and they take all the water bottles in to fill them, they all come back. Everyone seems to have a blue Nalgene bottle. So just have a distinguishing mark on your bottles so you know that they're yours. Hopefully that has given you some information on how to pack your bag for a Marangu route. If you've got any questions, you're more than welcome to email into the office, give us a shout, and we can advise, help you on kit for what you're going to need for your Kilimanjaro trek. So thanks ever so much for watching. See you soon. Bye bye.